Owning a sport fishing boat is expensive, Professor.
Yes, it is.
You know, we've talked about this at different times on our channel here, and you, the viewer, you always appreciate it when we get really honest about money. And so in this video, we're going to talk about the top 3 expenses that we have seen over and over again with owning a sport fishing boat. And hopefully by the end of this, you're going to be able to say to yourself, all right, if I'm thinking about one, at least I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. Expense number 1, Professor, is what?
I mean, I would say like maintenance. And when I say that, I don't mean just changing the oil.
Yeah, and changing the oil, by the way, is pretty expensive.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
For every trip that we go on, I think we did the math, you have to account for something like it's like $50
Yep.
in what will be an oil change. Because when we change the oil on this boat, and you do that yourself, so we don't have to, at this point, we don't pay somebody to do it. So you save a lot of money doing that, yet it's still, when you get the materials for this boat, and just so you know, this is a 40-foot express. So, you know, I mean, I don't know how much it's going to vary from Sportfish to Sportfish. The engines that we have in here, Professor?
They're Yanmar 465.
Yeah, Yanmar 465. So we got 2 of them in here just to give you context for what we're talking about. So when you change the oil, you spend how much each time?
It's about $700.
About $700 in the filters, and then in the
the oil
and
yeah, the fuel filters. Each engine has 3 oil filters, and then the engine itself has 2 fuel filters, and there's a primary fuel filter that filters the fuel before it even gets to the engine. So that's a lot of filters, and one of those oil filters costs like almost $50.
And it takes you how long to do that?
It's a good 5 hours to do both of them.
It's a good 5 hours. Yeah. And so if you're paying someone to do that, you might as well tack on another $500 probably at least.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, that's just a minor right there.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, you do that every how many hours?
250 hours.
Every 250 hours.
Give or take 10, 12 hours, you know, depends on how the trip falls. I try not to do it. I've been lucky enough to where I haven't had to do it at night, you know, because we've had a trip the next day and I'm due, so.
So we're probably replacing it for us every 20, 25 trips, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, good. Now, that's just one smidgen of the general maintenance costs. What are some of the other ones that, you know, that we see all the time?
Well, I mean, just like this past winter, we took our heat exchangers off, our after coolers, our gear coolers. We sent away all of our injectors, and that's all just maintenance. There was really nothing wrong with the boat. We turned the key off one day after fishing, and then we pulled everything apart, and everything was fine. But if you don't do that regular maintenance, it causes issues in the long run, and you really need to keep up on that kind of stuff. Not only does it save you from missing trips, but here it can also cost you your life, because if you have a catastrophic failure in the wrong spot, in the wrong weather, you know, you're screwed.
Yeah, that's not a good thing at all. You know, I think the biggest surprise for me, being a sport fishing boat owner, coming from the world of outboards, right, is, you know, you have a few general things like change your oil filter, etc., like with an outboard, but you don't really have a lot of other preventative stuff. I mean, you hit 1,000 hours, you might do this or that, but you just don't see that.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, there's so many little adjustments and tweaks that you've got to make to the engines to keep them running as they should be running. I just didn't understand that at the beginning. We spent to do that this year. Do you remember what that was?
I think it was just a tick under 30 grand.
Yeah.
But we sent the after coolers, the heat exchangers, the gear coolers, we sent everything off, had it cleaned and tested. And, you know, the injectors, we had those sent off and tested and rebuilt, stuff like that. And it's just, all that's expensive. I mean, I lost count of how many days that I spent in the engine room with the mechanic, our favorite mechanic, Chris Diggs.
Chris Diggs.
Yeah.
Love that dude.
He is a good dude, and he let me work side by side with him, and it probably would have been more expensive than that if he hadn't done that.
Each year, it's funny, each year we have these things that we want to do to the boat, and I think to myself each year, well, next year we won't have some of those big projects, or we won't have some of those big expenses. And I just realized now, no, you're going to have them.
Something's going to pop up.
So I think what I have heard, and this seems incredibly accurate now that we've lived it together for, 3-4 years, however long we've had the boat. And that is, be prepared to spend 10% of the boat's value in maintenance each year.
Yeah.
Which is that's actually incredibly accurate.
It is.
And it makes me a little bit afraid, Professor, to buy like another boat. if we got one that was, when we bought this wasn't $1 million boat. Now we've increased the value of it. It's as nice as it can be, but we didn't spend in the millions. No. I can't imagine if we, $2 million boat, is it really going to be $200,000 a year? Well, based on what we're seeing, yes. It's going to be up there. All right. So that was number one. Anything else on maintenance that was on your mind there, Professor?
That's pretty much it. I mean, it's always things that pop up, but yeah, you really got to keep up on your maintenance, and it's expensive.
Yeah, it is very, very expensive. Number two, Professor. Number two. What do you want to go with now?
I would probably say insurance.
Yeah, in our case, it's actually even more because we've got
the charter. It covers the charter fishing.
Yeah, it covers the charter, but it's not cheap to insure a boat. And how much do we pay each year?
I think it's around $8,000.
Yeah, it's about $8,000. And so put that in the context of let's say if it was $1 million boat, it would probably be in that 12 to 15, 12 to 16 range, something like that. Just $1,000 a year. Just $2 million, you're probably looking at $20,000 to $30,000 in insurance, per year. This is me just estimating, of course, but that's not cheap. No. That's not cheap, and you want to keep that in mind. It costs a good bit more to insure a boat like this, a sport fishing boat, than that center. How much did you spend on your center console back in the day for yearly insurance? You remember?
I think it might have been like $700.
Yeah, I mean, just 9-day difference. Yeah. 9-day difference. All right, so you want to keep that in mind as well. That's number two. And number three, Professor, bring us home.
Well, I would just say it's like miscellaneous repairs / breakdowns. We have that sometimes.
Man, we were helping out a boat recently. Brand new boat, and they had a whole bunch of tweaks that they had to make.
Right.
What I have found in the world of sport fishing, correct me if I'm wrong here, Professor, but if you get, let's say, a center console, more often than not, unless it's incredibly complex, it's not going to give you problems right out the gate. Right. Let's say, all right, traditional fishing boat, center console. A sport fish, especially you get one built, you think you're not gonna have problems. You have to work out a lot of tweaks and stuff like that. You're gonna have issues when you buy a sport fishing boat, whether new or used. Right. You need to be prepared for some repairs that you're probably gonna have to do, or at least some tweaks that you're gonna have to do. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's accurate.
You've had a few this year. What are some of the ones that you've had to deal with just this year?
Well, I had a trim tab. We have zip wake trim tabs. And they're a little bit different than your traditional trim tabs. They work off a computer, and they have an auto roll feature that, while you're running, kind of helps keep the boat from rolling so bad. And we had one go bad. We replaced it when we hauled out. And then probably, I guess about a month and a half later, the other one went bad.
Wouldn't you know it?
Yeah.
And whenever we have to have the boat hauled out, just the expense for that.
It's about $1,200. Yeah. Well, not just to haul out, but they haul it out, move it over to Blackwell, and block it up. And then that includes the, bringing it back and putting it in the water. So it's about I think it's $1,280 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid stick in the eye, right? So, and of course, this is only 40. This is only a 40-footer. I don't know what it would be for a 60.
Yeah, I guess they charge about a foot. I would think so.
Yeah, it goes up from there.
Yeah.
So, we had that this year, and we've had just other, just things that have failed. The generator.
Yeah, the generator is my nemesis.
It has been your nemesis. Yeah. We won't mention a brand here, but it has not been a pleasant experience with that brand.
No. And that generator was almost new when we bought the boat. You know,
yes.
So.
Yes. And all the mechanics say, oh, you shouldn't have gotten that one.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. Yeah. I think that's one that we're thinking is going to, if we have one more big issue with this generator, she's got to go.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to get a new one. And when we get a new one, that's going to cost us how much?
I think the generator itself is like $12,000, $13,000, and then you have the install, which we're going to go with a different brand this time, so it'll be a little bit more costly than just, you know, bolting a new one in that's exactly like the one we have. We're going to upgrade some so we can run some, you know, heavier stuff, and have a little bit more power.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, all these things, bottom line is that 10% rule. Very accurate.
Oh, yeah.
Because of those repairs that you're going to have to do, because of that general maintenance you're going to have to do. So it's one of those things where you want to go into it eyes wide open. And we're sharing this with you because we just want you to know, listen, we're not like, a lot of these people, they have a boat as just a tax write-off.
Yeah. You
know, our situation is we're trying to build something here. We're trying to build a brand. We're trying to build a business. And, you know, luckily, because of people like you, we've grown the business and it's helping offset some of these costs, but it's still not a profitable company.
Yeah.
The goal is that it becomes a profitable company, a profitable brand by all the things that we're doing associated with the Speechless brand. That's
right.
Where we're trying to, that's where we're trying to go with this. And we appreciate you all. And listen, if you have any questions about the cost associated with this boat or just with owning a Sportfish, I mean, this is something a lot of people are thinking about.
Yeah.
And so let us know. We'll be honest with you. Put it in the comment section or just reach out to us. You know, sometimes we get private messages from our website. People said, hey, I watched that video. You know, tell me about this. I got one the other day from a guy that was thinking about getting a Seakeeper one. He's like, hey, we watched that Seakeeper video that you did. Can you give me some thoughts on that? How do you feel about it today? And so we want to hear from you because the community matters. And, you know, come see us too, right here in Pirates Cove Marina. It's slip number 92 at Pirates Cove Marina. Love to go fishing with you, with this guy right here. Incredible experiences offshore, make memories for a lifetime. So until the next time, everyone, stay salty.